This week, in part because of the horrific events at Bondi, we've all become aware that it's Jewish Chanukah. But what is it? What do Jews celebrate? And how can the rest of us who are not Jews be supportive in this terrible time? I'm Robyn Whitaker, Director of the Wesley Centre for Theology, Ethics and Public Policy. And I felt very privileged that my friend Rabbi Ralph Genende was prepared to sit down with me in the middle of this difficult week and share what it's been like for him and a little bit of his own Chanukah traditions. So I invite you to listen, and it begins with his response to my question, what is Chanukah?
So the Chanukah tradition is a very old one, going back to the 2nd century, what we say BCE, and it commemorates basically a military victory was the start of this, as is recorded in the book of Maccabees. It was one against, there was a Hasmonean or the Maccabean family stood up against the tyranny of what was the Seleucid Greek Empire. The Greek Empire had split at the time, and they had introduced some very stringent restrictions against Jewish practice and Jewish worship. So they banned a lot of the study of Torah. They, I think, they forbade circumcision. They also brought into the temple, they desecrated the temple in Jerusalem by bringing in statues, gods, of the Greek idol, as well as also barbecuing pork or pig in the, it was a very blatant challenge to all that Judaism represented at the time. They are ultimately successful against a much stronger force in reconquering the temple, driving out the alien and the enemy forces, and then they rededicate the temple. For most people, it is associated probably with the lighting of a candelabra. So that's the 8-branched candelabra. And the reason for that is it's sort of historically it takes place later on. It's only recorded in the Talmud a few centuries later. And they say that at the time when the Maccabees came into the temple and they got rid of the idol and they cleared it out, and they once again find the central symbol of the temple or the tabernacle, for those who are familiar with their Bible, if you remember, was a 7-branched candelabra that was in the temple, and it was fed with pure olive oil. And the olive oil had to be, had like a stamp on it to say, like today, best virgin olive oil type of thing. So they were looking for this oil that had not been contaminated in any way, and they found only light for one night that they could light this candelabra when they'd rededicated the temple. And they said, oh, it's going to take us, we have to go back, go and get some more olives, crush the olives, get them ready. So it's going to take us a little bit of time. But according to myth and tradition, they place enough oil into the candelabra, into this giant 7-branched candelabra. They place the oil in it on the first night, but it continues to burn for 8 nights. So it's 8 nights.
So tell me, it's often called the Festival of Lights, or there's different words for it. I mean, I think for some Christians, they think of it as Jewish Christmas, which might be a slightly offensive way to think of it, but it's an attempt to find a common ground, I think. Tell me, do you have a favorite part of Chanukah, a favorite food or tradition, or is there gift giving or a memory? What's the thing you love best about it?
Well, I will say, I'll just comment on the fact it is well known usually because it is usually around Christmas time. And our consumer world loves to get us to consume things not only for Christmas but for Chanukah. And Christmaka is, I've seen, especially if you go to the States, they'll have the Christmas tree, and they've actually invented a Chanukah bush.
Okay.
Or they'll have the Chanukah together with the together the Christmas tree. Chanukah is actually considered one of the more minor festivals within Jewish life, but I think it's taken on this greater significance because of us living in, which we used, living in predominantly Christian cultures. It became more popular. But what's favorite part of it? It has its special foods connected to it, and those are donuts and something called latkes. Latkes are potato pancakes. The thing they both have in common, both the donuts and the latkes, is they are both deep fried. Why the oil? Of course, because it is symbolic of the fact that this was a festival where the oil was extended. There's a spinning top related to it, a little game for kids, and kids are given not gifts as much, but as given, I call it, they're given little chocolate money and sometimes maybe a monetary kind of gift. And I often wonder whether that is also kind of part of the melding of our two traditions, which I don't think is such. I think it's a lovely thing at kids, because some Jewish kids may feel that they are being deprived. They're not getting their Christmas gifts that their neighbors and friends are getting. So they at least are getting a Chanukah gift. I'll tell you a humorous thing related to that. When we were in New Zealand, which was a very small Jewish community, so there was not much display of anything to do with Hanukkah, but Christmas was everywhere, including the Christmas parade, which used to take place through central Auckland. He came to us the one year just before, and he said, "Do you think I can be a little less Jewish and therefore I can get some Christmas presents?"
Very strategic thinking.
Yes.
Now, of course, this year we are, Hanukkah began probably with lots of joy and anticipation, and then there was that horrific shooting in Bondi Beach that we're all well aware of now. Just how has this week been for you? I know it's impossible to put these things in words, but obviously that's really changed what the celebration might have looked like, and what are some of the things you're feeling and hearing in your community?
Yes, look, it has been, there was all this anticipation ended in devastation. And I think that, we are certainly within the Jewish community, we are still reeling from it. I think there's still a sense of trauma and shock. And for many of us, it is connected, takes us back to October 7, again, where you have this people whose intention is just to kill as many Jews as possible for the fact that we are Jewish. And so it has, and it continues to be a traumatic time in our community. But I think that, and I'm not the first to point out, is that at the same time, we can we can draw inspiration and strength from the Hanukkah festival and what it has come to actually be associated with symbolically and its meaning in more contemporary times in Jewish life. So I guess the one way of putting it across is that light can be something blinding. Light can be blinding, fire can be destructive. But we also know that light can be illuminating, and fire can be a source of light and warmth in itself. And so it's not just about blinding, but inviting. And what I think that the lights of Hanukkah then this year for us are inviting us to find ways of ensuring that those who want to put out the light in our lives are not triumphant, that we do not give a victory to those who wish to bring darkness into the world, but that rather by ensuring that we, even with all more reason to light the lamps, and I would say even more reason to light them out there in public, because at times like this, one response, of course, we know in a time of crisis is people withdraw. They withdraw into themselves, and they want to insulate themselves from the horror and from the terrible scenes that we have all witnessed right across Australia. And I'm conscious of the fact that it is not only the Jewish community that have been traumatized, but I think for all Australians, this has been a shocking, dreadful time that this is happening in our country, that we pride ourselves on our peacefulness, on our lucky country, and on our, the fact that we are able to live together with different cultures and different faiths. So being conscious of that, I think even more reason why it became the menorah or Chanukah, I said, needs to be placed at a window. That was within Jewish tradition. And they said, except in times of danger when you would be identifying yourself as Jewish and therefore bringing attention to yourself. But we want to say now, we want to bring attention. We want to be able to, and we want to say to our neighbors, no, we are placing them on our windowsills, and we invite you to do the same if you, in a sense.
I was walking my dog late last night, and my neighbors, who are actually Greek Orthodox, I noticed they had a menorah in their front window, lit with the appropriate number of candles for whatever day we were up to last night. And it was this really great sign. And I messaged her, and she said, yes, she'd gone out and bought a menorah because she wanted to stand in solidarity with the Jewish community. So we've also at the Wesley Centre been encouraging people to light candles, share a photo of their candle, put it in a window. I think this idea that light pierces the darkness, you don't need very much light to actually start to shatter darkness.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful image that we share in our traditions.
So that's incredibly warming and supportive to hear that. It kind of also reminds me, that famous line of Martin Luther King, that you don't fight hatred with hatred.
No.
You don't defeat darkness with darkness. You fight hatred with love, and you defeat darkness with bringing light. And so bringing even a little bit of light into the world. So, I hope that, that we will continue to let the light in and just find the light, even at this time, which is a pretty dark one for us in Australia.